Admiral William McRaven is more than a little bit familiar with complicated, difficult, even very dangerous situations. He, of course, served nearly 40 years as a Navy SEAL, commanding at every level. The four-star admiral's final assignment, famously, was as commander of all U.S. Special Operations Forces, and he was the individual who planned and oversaw the mission that killed Osama bin Laden in 2011. Well, now he's a best-selling author, and his latest book is called Conquering Crisis: 10 Lessons to Learn Before You Need Them. Admiral McRaven, good morning. Thank you very much.
Good to be with y'all. Thanks.
It's a great book. I mean, just the basic insight that there's a difference between leading day to day and leading in crisis. And I also like how the Apollo 13 mission, which NASA calls a successful failure, was the inspiration. Tell me how.
Well, I had an opportunity to meet Commander Jim Lovell, Captain Jim Lovell, many years ago, and it kind of forced me to reflect on Apollo 13. And I was a young boy when Apollo 13 happened. And when you think about a crisis, and this is why, crisis leadership is different than day-to-day leadership. In a crisis leadership, your time is constrained, your resources are constrained, lives can sometimes be on the line, everybody is watching. So you have to have a different tool set, you have to have different skills to be able to deal with a crisis. And Apollo 13 was the crisis of our day. You think about 1970, the 3 astronauts go up, they have to move from the command module to the lunar module, and now you've got to address this crisis. And of course, Gene Kranz on the ground did a marvelous job along with the other engineers, and they got through the crisis because they followed certain approaches and processes. And so again, crisis leadership is fundamentally different than day-to-day leadership.
I like what you say too about first reports in a crisis are normally wrong. That's how it happens here around breaking news. The first reports initially are normally wrong.
Right.
So first get your facts straight and then own up to your mistakes.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of leaders don't do.
Yeah, they really don't.
I mean, we learn in the military, and it's the old Napoleon Bonaparte quote, that first reports are always wrong. They're not always wrong, but most of the time they are wrong. So you have to be very careful about making a declarative statement, coming out and saying, in a lot of cases, we take it on the positive side. Well, we got him. This is great. And then you find out, well, maybe we didn't get the right guy, or maybe things didn't go quite as well as we needed to. But when things don't go well, to your point, Gayle, the leader needs to stand in front of the shareholders, the people, the rank and file, and say, look, things are not going well. We didn't get this right. We made a mistake. Now here's my plan to get out of the crisis and to move forward.
So, Admiral, it's great that Gayle mentions breaking news because we do have some news that I want to ask you about. I want to get your thoughts on the multiple sources that have told CBS News that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has shared sensitive military plans on 2 separate occasions on a Signal group chat, one with the journalists inadvertently, and most recently with members of his own family. And I thought of that.
That was not inadvertent.
That was not inadvertent.
Yeah.
He actually shared those according to the reports. And I was struck by what you wrote on page 74 of your book. The truth can be a powerful weapon in helping to resolve most crises. If the public or your stockholders or your bosses believe that this is an isolated incident, that you're acting in good faith, they're likely to give you some maneuvering space. If, however, they believe you are misrepresenting the truth or worse, outright lying, then they become suspicious and the questions will ensue. Break that down in the context of your book.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, the truth always comes out. So as a leader, again, this is the hard part about being in a crisis. You have to face the crisis head on. You have to face it head on. You think of it as a fast-moving, forest fire. You want to be able to hit it head on. You want to be able to put maximum pressure against it. But you also have to stand up and you have to face the allegations. And if you screwed up, the best thing to do as a leader is to say, hey, I messed up. And again, here's what I'm going to do to get through it. Now, in the case of Pete Hegseth,
should he resign?
No, well, again, that's a decision for the president to make.
If he was a young lieutenant under your command, what would you do?
Well, you have to hold him accountable. So, I mean, accountability is an important part of being a leader in any level. And Pete Hegseth has come out a lot of times and said, look, what he's trying to do in the military is to hold people accountable. And I think that's great. But as a leader, you also have to hold yourself accountable. So if I were Hegseth, I'd do a couple of things. I would, one, surround myself with people that understand, the Pentagon, understand the Department of Defense a little better. Make sure you've got people that are prepared to speak truth to power. And I tell you, he's got a great chairman in General Dan Kane. I know Dan well. He's going to do a fabulous job. Now, one, I liked C.Q. Brown, and I thought C.Q. Brown was an excellent officer. But he has been moved on, and now Dan's in that position. If I were Secretary Hegseth, I would rely on Dan Kane for his best military advice.
What happens when people don't appear to hold themselves accountable and instead blame others?
Yeah, then, as you know, Gayle, it begins to spread like wildfire across the organization. If the organization thinks that you as the leader are not going to hold yourself accountable, then why should they hold themselves accountable? So it starts at the top. All great leadership and all great organizations begin at the top.
In under 30 seconds, most people are not going to be dealing with NASA missions
Yes.
or, must-succeed military operations. They're just trying to run a family, right, or a small business. How does your book
true.
help them? You got about 20 seconds left here.
Yeah,
But
so
it
what I
does.
tell you is whether you are the CEO of a global company or whether you are an individual, when you're in a crisis, you have to face it head on. I laugh with my students at UT and talk about the second law of thermodynamics. Basically, things deteriorate over time. So if you think it's going to get better, it's not. Deal with it head on. Deal with it head on personally. Deal with it head on professionally, and that will help you get through.
That's
it.
Second law of thermodynamics.
But it's
Right?
great.
That's
In
what-
your own book, you write about the mistakes you made
Yes.
and how you handled them.
The book is great.
It's so good.
It really is. And you're writing a children's book.
I am writing children. Be a Hero with Skipper the Seal. It's in conjunction with my daughter. We've had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah.
We'll have you back for that. Admiral
Thanks.
McRaven, thank you very
My
much.
pleasure.
Conquering Crisis is on sale right now.